Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Hash It Out. My name is Justin Moorhead, and I am here with my good buddy Mitchell Evans, and we're going to talk about 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. This is still the Household Codes series that we're doing on Sunday mornings, and yesterday Mitch preached this verse. 1 Peter 3, 7 is Peter instructing husbands on how they should live with and treat their wives. I'm just going to read it because it's just one verse, and it's always good to read the Bible. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. Now, if this is your first time hearing that verse, there may be something that jumps out at you, something that many people think is provocative, is that women, according to the Bible, are a weaker vessel. Yeah, right? Mitch, is that true? Or are women weaker than men? Is that what this is meaning?
It is true.
Yes. Yes.
I was a lot of things in my mind to say.
This feels like it gets real mansplaining real fast.
Yeah. Yes. It is. I think it is true. I think our world is still trying to figure out what that phrase means.
The WNBA, they're trying to figure it out.
The WNBA is, which I did look up these guys, right? Royce White, who I don't think played in the NBA very much. I think he was actually made it to the NBA like a season.
But he was a professional basketball player.
Yeah, in the NBA.
In the NBA.
In the NBA, but just short stint. Enes Kanter, I may have messed up his first name, but I know his last name, Freedom. Changed his last name to Freedom.
Oh, wow.
It was not a given last name. Yes. So these two guys, though, I do think are doing something worthwhile. Their claim is, it might be a stunt, they may not actually go through with it, but they're going to go to the WNBA tryout, claiming that they feel like a woman.
Right.
So therefore they should be allowed on these teams because there's trans men who are showing up at or claim they're also going to show up at the WNBA tryout, and so then it would be like kind of men's league, but junior varsity.
So just a couple questions, because I think you've read about it more than I have, or heard about it more than me. So right now, the WNBA as an organization would allow for a trans person to play?
Yes.
Okay.
That's their stated position from my understanding. Yep.
Is they would allow it, and there are, and that these guys you mentioned by name may or may not be trying to kind of poke fun at that or poke a hole in it. They may actually feel like a woman.
Oh, no, I think they're totally poking a hole in it.
Okay.
When they go through with actually showing up at a tryout for a WNBA team,
right?
I don't know. Some people have called it a political stunt. But they're men, they're claiming to be men, but they're saying, I'm willing to show up at this tryout just to prove how ridiculous this is. That we already have a league for biological men. We should have a league for biological women. And it would be unfair because of testosterone levels, biology, all these other things, to introduce men into the ladies' league. And so I think Peter is saying this. I think in Peter's day, this would have gone really just with a lot of, head nods, like, yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Where we're in a day and age where most people, I think, thankfully, also recognize that you shouldn't be allowing this. Primarily, we recognize that in sports.
Sure.
Right? But my wife certainly relies on me to get the lid off of a lot of jars.
Yes, that's right. You got elbow grease, right?
Yeah.
Stronger elbow. So, but I think the reason why this is so important is Peter's concern is that women are cared for well. Wives are cared for well by their husbands.
100%.
I mean, that's what he's saying, is you should take good care of your wife. So recognizing them as weaker. So you might say, if you were to apply the Bible to the WNBA, they are absolutely, in any other sport who's playing this game, putting women in harm's way. They're taking wives, someone's wife, and women in general, and putting them in harm's way because of a failure to recognize this truth. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, I mean, Peter puts it in as like a principle. So likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to them. You could even skip, in some sense, showing honor to them. Skip because they're weaker vessels. since they're heirs with you, so you should show honor to them because they're heirs with you.
Yeah.
And he's saying that particular way in which you would show honor is an acknowledgement of the fact that they're weaker vessels. And so he literally says, if you read it in the original language, he's saying, show honor to them. Then the original language says, weaker vessels because they're female. Would be a little more literal rendering of it. So they're weaker vessels because this is true of all females. So this is not just true in a marriage relationship. This is a general principle that would apply to the WNBA.
And not just true of a particular woman, but in general, females versus males.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't take the one rock star Olympian woman who could maybe bench press more than a guy and say, well, this principle doesn't hold. Look how strong she is.
And you would always have exceptions for sure. For sure. At the same time, I know Ranger School in the military has borne this out. There are some ladies in the past, especially in the 90s, they had a couple ladies that went through Ranger School on the male terms and were able to pass and make it into Ranger School. Yeah. But it was the exception that proved the rule.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's important. I think it's important. Now, in the greater kind of scheme of what Peter's saying in even beginning in verse 1 of chapter 3, in talking about husbands and wives, he says, likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands, and then go on to describe a lot of things. But never anywhere in there does he say, so he tells the wives, be subject to your husbands, but he never says to the husbands, be a particularly good leader. So it seems like this is kind of a one-sided or an out-of-balance passage where you say, wives be subject, husband be leaders. But that's not how the flow of the passage is. Why is that?
Yeah, man, I think that's a great question. I'll tell you what I find interesting. This is not a direct answer. Paul does the same thing. So he talks about husband and wife relationships in Ephesians and again in Colossians. In each instance, it'll be some version of wives be subject to your husbands, wives submit to your husbands. Some version of the wife is going to show this deference in terms of relationship roles to the husband. So you would anticipate, I think, in each one of those a lot about, so husbands, make sure you lead well. I think that is inferred from it, obviously. A wife can't be subject to her own husband if he's also in turn being subject to his wife, which is not stated. So it is inferred that the husband be the leader. But that's never the case. Secondarily, a thing that's never the case, and I think it was being prevented here, is that the husbands would have some way of making their wives be subject or submit. It's just never stated. It's that they would, if they don't do what you say, then I'll tell you what you do, is never stated. So I think the idea is you get out in front, leading. So you might phrase it this way, or the way I find it helpful is give a wife something as a Christian worth following.
Sure, yeah.
So be out in front leading in that sense. I want to be chasing after Christ in such a way that if you come in with what I'm doing, then we're going to follow Christ together. So I do think that would be the sense. But really the concern for the husband is how he would address his wife in an honoring way. So the way I think Peter lays it out is less about the wife being the weaker vessel. The reason he's speaking to that is he's saying, don't intimidate your wife into being subject. Don't be domineering, being in your relationship with her. You're going to show honor. So you might say it would be show honor even if she's not following your lead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but so you're going to give her something worth following. And how you follow Christ is your goal. So
a husband shows a wife honor even if she's not following your lead. A wife be subject to your husband even if he's not honoring Christ. Sounds like there's a lot of this mirror thing that's going on here. And with some of this, I've heard it in terms of, I can't remember where exactly I heard this, you may know, but different types of authority. So there are certain types of authority that are going to have teeth, so to speak. The authority of a government or police officers, law enforcement has teeth. The authority of a parent over a child, there are consequences that you might bring up and say, there's going to be a consequence if you don't, if you're not subject to me. In the context of the church, the congregation certainly has authority with teeth. The congregation can admit or kick someone out, that sort of thing. But where a husbandly authority is more like a pastoral authority, where you can't really make anyone do anything. There's no kind of dictatorial, domineering approach to it. It's more, it genuinely is, this is my recommendation. We should go this way. I want to kind of fold you in on the vision that I have, and I'm trying to compel you to come along, according to the Bible, Lord willing. But that it's not, there's no sense in which you can say, or else, at any point.
Yeah. Yeah. And the husband, I think it would rule out so many issues people have with this model.
Sure.
If understood rightly.
Right.
So I think you're exactly right. There's no means by which you coerce your wife into doing what I say because I'm in charge around here. Is just not described.
Sure. Yeah. I think in envisioning a scenario where, so maybe there's a husband feels like he's beating his head up against the wall because he doesn't have that type of cooperative, submissive spirit in his wife, to lead her into the truths of Scripture and point this out and say, hey, this is what the Bible's saying. Certainly that wouldn't be considered coercive, I wouldn't think. What do you think about that? To just be like pointing out sin in a wife's life and saying, hey, we shouldn't be operating the way that we are because the Bible says otherwise.
Yeah, I think a couple. So maybe an easy example. I have some family members. They were empty nesters at this point, had never followed the model described here.
Sure.
They thought going into marriage, you should do everything 50-50. And so we're going to split tasks, we're going to split responsibilities, roles, etc. Just want to split everything. Then as Christians, they realized, man, the Bible describes two different roles. And so they said, we want to shift towards this. We want to, so it took sitting down, like you're saying, with this passage, a really conscious decision. At the time, for instance, the passage is saying, since she's the weaker vessel, don't put burdens on her that wouldn't be inappropriate to a weaker vessel. You should expect to bear those. So in the family members I'm thinking of, the wife said, one of the things I felt burdened by is I'm the one who always has to keep up with the finances and make sure we stay in budget and all this kind of stuff. She was saying, I felt like, man, if we go into financial destitution, that's all my fault. She said, I really want that burden off of me. And so the husband had to choose in his late 50s.
Sure.
I'm now going to be financially responsible for our household. And I'm going to take that burden off my wife. And so it was a really deliberate switch. But what I found really cool is there were fits and starts.
Sure, yeah.
But they did transition to a totally different model. And so I think the other piece of that is it's never too late.
Yeah,
it'd be easy for somebody. You see these old guys where they pull up at Lowe's and their wife's with them. And the old guy hops out of the truck and shuts the door and starts beelining across the parking lot. The wife's back there trying to dig around in her purse to pull the key fob out to make sure the car's locked and all the kind of stuff. And then he says, well, I got tired years ago of waiting for my wife, standing in a hot parking lot, waiting for her to get her stuff together. I just quit doing that and I go into the store.
Yeah.
So he stopped showing honor and he says, that's just how we do it. We found what's best for us. I would say, so with the couple I'm thinking of, family members, they said, yeah, we found a way that worked for us, but it didn't line up with what God said.
Right.
So we needed to shift and line up with what God said, even if it meant making really kind of awkward changes at the time.
Sure.
So I would tell the man in the Lowe's parking lot, you should, even at 65, learn to show honor.
Yeah.
One of the ways you're going to show honor is you're going to sweat a little bit. Politely waiting for your wife to get out of the car, get adjusted, and walk in with her.
Sure.
And that would be a change. It would be a deliberate change. But he's going to sit down with this passage and say, I've got to make this choice.
Yeah.
Then I think he's in a much better position to do what you said. Also sit down with his wife and say, I think I'm going to do this side. I would ask that you do your side. But the last thing, and I'll leave it alone.
Sure.
Out of that is he says do it out of knowledge, right? Do it out of understanding. Do it according to knowledge, it would say. according to knowledge gets brought up a couple spots. In chapter 1, it references doing things out of ignorance. And so he's saying as we get all the way down in 1:14,
Yeah.
as obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance. So there was one way you operated with ignorance that wasn't for Jesus. Now that you have knowledge, you operate for Jesus.
Yeah.
What I think the focal point of that is, the understanding would not be understanding your wife better.
Yeah.
It would be understanding what Christ wants. So I'm doing this to serve him. So back to your idea, if the wife is not doing her part,
Sure.
that wasn't the point to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this so that we can have a better marriage. I'm doing this so I can be a more faithful Christian.
Yeah. Amen. That's good.
So, yeah.
For sure. Last thing I will say, just because I think it's a good image, and this is also something I heard somewhere, and I can't remember where. Husbands should be like Tupperware, and wives should be like china. So you're going to hand wash the china. You're going to dry it really carefully, and you're going to put it back up on display in the china cabinet or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the Tupperware is going to be kind of warped from the hot water in the dishwasher and have spaghetti sauce stains all over it. But it's really doing its job. It's always there for you when you need it. Okay. It's doing the hard work. So Tupperware in china, I thought that was pretty cool.
Hand wash your wife.
That's right. Hand wash your wife. Yeah, I hope that's the main takeaway. Thank you for joining us this week on Hash It Out. We'll be here, same bat time, same bat channel. Next week, we'll hope to see you then.